Sandrine will record this. I get you got the message on your screen, purely that we can send the link to the exhibition think tank community afterwards, and everybody who can't join the session can watch the discussion between me and Jens, and whoever wants to unmute the microphone and jumps in with any question. So with our ETT session today, I want to thank our main sponsor, Expo Platform, for doing the major work for the preparation. Expo Platform, they have done a survey about digital revenue, digital behavior, and so on. And in a minute, Jens will share his screen. He will go through the slides of the findings. I will jump in here and then if a clever question comes to my mind, or if I have a different perspective to the slides, and we will discuss it. And after the presentation, we do a question and answer round. But saying this, if anybody wants to comment, if anybody has a question, if anybody has another perspective, don't wait for the question and answer round. Just unmute your microphone and jump in and join the discussion as you want to join the discussion. As you know, the tradition of the exhibition think tank was a little bit that everybody had the same voice and everybody can say and contribute to the discussion as their want. So I'm very much looking forward, Jens, to hear from you about the trends in digital events. Before I say this, I'm not sure, I guess most of you have seen the press release or our email, but sadly, we have decided that the exhibition think tank will come to an end, and we will do one last exhibition think tank, and that will be very soon on January the 31st. So if you have not signed up to this last exhibition think tank, please reach out of you, go on the website exhibitionthinktank.com and register. And why we have decided that the exhibition think tank will come or should come slowly to an end is because we started this initiative and we started this project at the beginning of the crisis. It was meant as a one-off think tank where 150 people joined. And in this first one-off think tank, we got the feedback, hey, we should continue this. We are in the crisis. We should do an ongoing exhibition think tank. So we from MBB, we were very, very happy to organize it. We were super happy to fund it as well. We got extremely positive support, like from companies like Expo Platform or from InfoSalon and other from Momentous was one of our other main sponsors. And UFI supported this initiative, and they gave UFI Gold memberships as well. So the exhibition think tank came from a one-off project to a 4-year-long exercise. But as the crisis is now thankfully coming to an end, and as we are not the biggest company, we thought it is good that the industry is back on track. The industry is booming as it was before. We should now concentrate on our main business, which is consulting and which is education. So if anybody of you need a good consultant, please call us. But I think it's now time to hand back and to thank to everybody in the industry who helped us on this amazing journey to make it happen. Okay, so enough about the exhibition think tank. Jens, I think now it's time to talk a little bit about digital trends, and I will chip in whenever I have a question. Over to you. Please share your screen and your slides.
Thank you so much, Tesi. Very well, and Sandrine, of course, as well. A very warm welcome from me and from everyone at Expo Platform here. Welcome to this session. Who am I? My name is Jens Schindler. I am looking after the German, Austrian, and Switzerland market for Expo Platform for last year. And for those who don't know me from my past, I have some good 20 years in the exhibition industry. I have run my own trade shows. I have run my own trade magazines and also the digital content side of things. So that's sort of my background. I've also dabbled a little bit in the startup industry. There was about payment systems and so on. So that's maybe for you to have a little bit of an idea where I come from. A lot of interactive solutions, for example, played a role of what we did back then. As Tesi alluded to, you already know that Expo Platform's EventX trends survey is now almost something like a tradition. It's in its third run now, and I'm proud to present it this year. One thing that is that we have celebrated in between last year and this year was our 10th anniversary. So with this tradition comes sort of like another sort of company tradition now. And yeah, without further ado, let me take you to the results. And what I want to be doing is present you with the actual findings, and at the same time also be a little bit opinionated about the numbers and give you an interpretation of the numbers. And I hope very much that you share your insights or questions, or maybe also you know, different views on those numbers, in case they are you know, look not exactly how you would expect them to be. So let's jump straight in. And this is our first big slide with a double whammy straight away. We're actually integrating two different slides here. The first question that we always ask is, what are your annual digital revenue expectations? And we're looking in the left-hand top corner here, and I would suggest to read this table actually from the bottom line first. So we are offered choices in brackets, starting from people who would expect all of their revenue to come from digital. And while last year we still found some companies, those would be then those that be entirely virtual with their events, to expect all of their revenue to come from there. And that's already dropped quite clearly to 0 in the bottom right-hand corner this year, which is, I guess, another way of saying that in-person events are back in full swing, as we all know and as we've seen. But here is also the proof of the pudding in the numbers. And then moving up in with these brackets, one can see that similarly, those that are sort of like purely focused on the digital side, they have sort of, you know, or in the hybrid, they haven't changed that dramatically. When we look at the bracket between 50 to 69, from 5 to 8%, a slight increase. But then there are 30 to 49, the development clearly is already going towards the other direction, that the events have been coming more in person, and it was less for the virtual element that was going on there. But then moving up the entire table, I think is a very, very strong statement that even those who had the least revenue from digital so far, and who have maybe been the ones that in terms of the overall adoption curve were more towards the end, that even they have still an increase from 20%, from this 41% there to 48%. So that's a 20% increase in what they are expecting in terms of digital revenue. And I think that's really sort of a strong statement, that we can see that even those that are sort of actually on the bottom end of how much money they're making from digital, even they see the biggest or see a really strong increase here. Yeah. So we have, which of course is something that we welcome very much from our point of view, we have a very strong momentum going here. And then going one step back again to the second bracket, because this is the one that I hope to discuss also with Tesi a little bit, is here the one where those who have already had a good digital income, they have now jumped from 18% to 36%. And that seems a really massive figure if you think that, you know, many people maybe 5 years ago or so, or even before COVID, had zero income from digital, that up to 29% are now saying, hey, we are expecting up to a third of our revenue to come from digital side alone. So those are very strong numbers for the expectation of digital revenue, and of course very, very welcome from our end. When we take this view and now compare it to what does that, or do companies and do organizers also take this and act accordingly when they look at their tech budget? So we ask, how much of your budget goes towards event tech? And if we do the same again and start from the bottom line of the table, those who obviously have only digital virtual events or something, they would spend the entire budget on the digital solutions, but those are only a small 4%. That's quite clear. And similar for these, the second and the third bracket that are probably in the hybrid area, and they are also spending a very high portion of their digital, of their budget on the digital side of things. But in total, of course, they make up not that much compared to the upper two brackets, that with 48% now are spending some money towards digital, and they are increasing their digital budgets. And that is, I think, very, very remarkable, and something, again, to discuss, because I guess what we can now conclude after the crisis and after this first sort of year of consolidation, there is actually no one left anymore who does not invest in digital event technology. We have sort of left that part behind. Everyone is in there. Yes, there is still a group comparatively on the bottom line of the sort of investment bracket with this up to 9%, that is still considerable, but at the same time, there is no one left who doesn't invest in digital. And I think that's really remarkable and something to sort of look into. Clearly, these two groups here on the budget investment, they are sort of slightly separate. You know, there seems like really a very dedicated small group that is sort of pressing ahead and is pressing forward. And then there's, of course, sort of the real bulk of the market that is following. But at the same time, it can also be seen now that they're really following suit, and that it also is moving forward. I guess to try and sort of make sense of this, what we can really conclude here is to say that the industry has started to put its money where its mouth is, and the investment behavior is really starting to align with what the expectations are in terms of the revenue, and also some other factors that we will see at a later stage.
Jens, can I jump in here?
Sure, absolutely. So that I was just about to ask how you see this, Tesi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and to the audience, Jens is prepared that I'm jumping in and challenge that slide a little bit. We had about this slide actually long discussions in our preparation call. From my background, we did similar investigations 2 times quite intensively, and the numbers I know, they look different actually to the numbers, Jens, you got in your survey. So a benchmark from my work in the past was more that trade shows are doing around, if they do everything largely right, they do around 5% of their revenue with digital. If they are really good, they do 10%. And if they do more than 15%, that is very, very rare that the trade show is really generating more than 15% of their budgets through digital products. And there is a lot in where the industry might not be aligned. I know that there is many discussions amongst companies what is actually digital revenue and what is not digital revenue. So very often it's a definition problem. We don't have an industry-wide definition. And sometimes it's also a problem who's answering the survey. I remember one survey we did in ETT where we asked a similar question where people said, oh yeah, I think we do 40% with digital revenue. And then we looked at the profile of the people who answered that survey, and we saw they are heavily non-digital people and also not involved in any budget process. But it could be also that in my numbers, I had more in my head when it comes to digital revenue. Maybe we only ask traditional trade show organizers and not the young companies and the agile companies. The same with the cost side. I haven't seen a company who is really investing 30% of their budget in digital development, at least not one of the traditional organizers. I mean, John, I'm looking at you. You were my boss 10 years ago. I'm just imagining a budget meeting where I said, hey, can I have 4 million for digital development? I guess you would not have smiled. So the numbers are really different to the numbers I know, Jens. Can you explain this to me, or what is your take on that?
Mm. So yeah, thank you very much for those points. I do think, or some of the numbers look high to me as well. I agree, but also I think there's a number of factors that we can look at. First of all, I guess I would point back to the fact that it's revenue expectations. So it's the first one, especially when I look sort of at this 36% figure in the second bracket on the top left-hand side. This is not realized yet, but it's something that people expect. And when I compare that just simply to the same question being asked and the results from the last survey with 18%, then maybe even if it is not exactly at that spot where it should be, it still shows that people's expectation is that whatever their revenue mark is, it will double. Yeah, and that I think is significant. So you may be very right that someone is at 5%, but it seems that they're expecting to be then at 10%, and I think that's probably the bigger story here than whether that figure is exactly there or there. I know myself, and I agree. I mean, I know some major people who probably in 2022, they have done their very first 0.5% of digital sales in the existence of their events business, so clearly everyone is also still on a very different stage of the journey, and some people obviously are further in the back and others are further to the front. But yeah, I would sort of think that if we consider that it's actually expectations and just look at the relationship, then even for the top bracket to still expect 20% more, that's clearly significant. And also, I agree that probably some people have considered maybe things also like digital advertising revenue or maybe a digital sponsorship or so, which we could now argue, is this actually digital revenue or is this actually advertising revenue? And we would only want to count as digital revenue something which comes from lead intelligence or whatever else on digital services and products we may offer. So I think that if we take these factors into consideration, then the trend and the trend line and the trajectory, if you allow me to say, that still holds. Whether it's the right level for each and every one individually, that's of course to be seen in the individual cases.
Thank you very much. And John, I saw that you unmuted your microphone. Do you want to, 10 years later, give me the millions of development or?
Absolutely. I think it would have been worth it. No, but I see that the discussion is always difficult to exactly define what digital revenues are. But I think solutions being facilitated by digital are on the rise. And I think that trend is definitely there. And it's always difficult to specifically discern what digital revenues is. Quite a bit is being sold in packages. And if you sell a package to an exhibitor and it includes a digital directory, then you might allocate a portion of it to digital revenues. But is it really pure play digital revenues? Not really sure. But the trend is probably unmistakable.
And I think these are the 2 points your slide, Jens, are really bringing up in a very nice way. It's a trend is there, like John is saying. The awareness is there. I think one thing is still missing in our industry, and this is something where Expo platform and everybody who is in digital could play an enormously important role, and this is standards and education. Yeah, when we talk about digital revenue, we all should have at least broadly the right understanding in the industry. Otherwise, we never compare apples with apples. And education, I can tell we did a big project a year ago where we had the opportunity to look at something like 100,000 data records of what exhibitors have booked. So we had the hard-coded data in front of us, and it was very hard to standardize the data. It was brutally hard, but what was even more eye-opening was we went to show directors and we said, we looked at your digital revenue. And he said, yeah, I know I'm rubbish. And we said, no, you are brilliant. And he said, no, I'm rubbish. And we said, no, we have it in the data. You are brilliant. And he didn't believe us. And we showed him his digital revenue based on a standard. And he was totally unaware that he has digital revenue. And vice versa, we went to other show directors who claimed to be absolutely brilliant. And we said, no, you're not brilliant. We are very sorry. So it shows that standards, the right reporting and the right interpretation of the data is still an open field in our industry. Let's put it down that way. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Jens. Any other comment regarding the slide from anybody else in the audience? Otherwise, Jens, please show us the next slide.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. 1 second. Okay. Then we're going to the second slide, and this one is there was a little bit pure data. So the next question that we asked was, how do you expect the digital component of your budget to change? So from the snapshot that we have just now done and we oriented ourselves about, we're now looking at sort of what do we expect in terms of the change. A total of 72% of the respondents have now predicted that their digital revenue will increase in the next year, which is up already just again within the last half a year from the 64% that we had there. So that's some 12.5, 15 or 13% in increase only within the last 6 months. Again, as I think quite remarkable, and it shows also that people don't just look at the in-person business, but they do see the digital business coming alongside with it. And when you now look quickly at the table again in the top right-hand corner, and we have the various values for a lower expectation, the expectation for things to stay the same, an increase and a significant increase. And the 2013 numbers still saw a small group of 9% to actually expect a lower budget. That group has now gone completely away, and like similar to the first slide, you know, we can really here conclude that the group of those people who have in the past said, okay, we are not investing in event technology, that is now really sort of coming to an end, and event technology has become really middle of the road, accepted, and their standard to have. Then, okay, the middle of the market, that has stayed the same, but not necessarily too much of a surprise, given that, you know, of course, there was so much change that, you know, some people, you know, if you can keep things steady, that's what they do. But what is also interesting to see that those who maybe only half a year ago saw also a significant increase to their budget, that has gone as well to zero as well. So when you just look at the distribution again, it happens from the bottom and it happens from the top. And I guess this is for anyone who's sort of a statistics buff. I think that's a very typical development when volatility goes away and things really return to normal, and things return to a modus of operandi that that everyone can engage in. And it is another sort of big underline that event tech is really now in the core of the market, and people neither expected to sort of like to have a massive change to the top or to the bottom, but it is really now there in the middle. And I think that's, again, of course, so what's the takeaway here? The takeaway here is that the change towards event technology is actually not changing so much anymore, but it has become the new normal. And so we're looking forward to the further adoption of event tech.
I think
Tesi,
that slide
how do you see that?
Yeah, I think that slide is very positive sign for our industry. I had the feeling, but I couldn't back it up with any data. It was purely anecdotal feeling out of many conversations I had when the pandemic slowly came to an end, that our industry is a little bit divided over that question. That some people say crisis is over, forget about digital, back to main business. And other people said, oh, no, we learned our lesson. We moved into digital unprepared. Next time we want to be more prepared. So let's continue exploring digital. And that doesn't come as a surprise, I belong to the second part of the group. I always was very an ambassador for the digital opportunities, but I experience the industry as a little bit more divided over this question. And your slide indicates that we have learned our lessons. Yeah, we want to move more into digital, and we see it also positive. Do you have any examples or any clients who changed their mind, or can you explain why the industry changed their mind in that positive way from my point of view?
I mean, first of all, I wanted to say that I think it's a learning curve, so to speak. Okay, we had this absolute massive cut, and of course, sort of like with this volatility of that development, there was also a volatility in the response to that development. And I think what you see here is now that volatility goes out again, and the response, so to speak, becomes simply more measured. The people have calmed down. I think we have another slide when we talk about AI where you can see the same thing. So maybe it's no more so much of a black or white, but people have accepted the fact that yes, digital is now here, and we are going towards dealing with it, and we're dealing it, in a way as business as usual, like we are dealing with other investments maybe as well, And I guess that's how I would see it, rather than someone really sort of like changing from black to white.
Thank you.
Do we have questions on this one here as well, or comments?
Well, maybe one comment, I think, from the couple of conversations I've had with event organizers recently. I think that the mindset has changed from looking at digital as a replacement of revenues during the pandemic to now really far more focus on how we'll enhance the existing revenues of the exhibitions. Yeah. I mean, it's so vast compared to digital. They have to have their teams focus on the main events, but at the same time understand that ROI, the customer experience, need to be changed by increasing the number of digital tools.
Yeah, and it's an augmentation rather than sort of a replacement, So yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
Andrea, you raised your hand as well. Andrea, your microphone is muted, just in case. Okay, maybe if your microphone has problems, maybe put your question in the chat. And I would say, Jens, in the meantime, we continue to the next slide.
Okay. So we asked, where can event technology be grasped as an opportunity? And I think that goes straight back to John. So personalization of experiences was chosen by 64% of the respondents as a key area for event tech development and taking over from July's leader of AI-powered features. And when you look at the diagram, you see that AI-powered features within that diagram actually made it, so to speak, from the top spot to the bottom spot. Now, I guess the misinterpretation of this information may be to think that AI is over. I think that's definitely not the case. But similar to what I just said in the earlier slide, clearly 2023 was the year of AI. It was the buzz year of AI. Everyone was interested in, everyone wanted to learn. I guess we all had the first chance also as individuals to sort of experience the power of AI using the various chat tools and so on. So it was different in that personal experience where, you know, before then it might have been a technology that we knew about. Maybe we knew it was a technology that is used in systems like expo platforms, but it wasn't something that we could sort of, you know, put our own fingers on so much. But again, here we can see that people have now sort of learned about that, and they see still the value, but they're going back to focusing on what is it actually that we need to be delivering and in terms of the opportunity, and what is that value to the customer with personalization coming out on top, and looking at AI as what it is, a tool, a means, a how, rather than the what. You know, and I think that's the takeaway from this slide, and the answers that are being given here on the different points. I might still, though, point them out. You know, after the personalization with 64%, there is the providing exhibitor return on investment with 60%, better analytics for events with 56%, the community nurturing with 44%, product discovery with 40%, and the AI-powered features also with 40%. And so again, a fresh focus on the client benefit and on the exhibitors or benefit here.
One question slightly related to the slide, and maybe Tanya can answer this, but in Expo platform, in your tool, when it's used by show organizer, do you see any specific feature or any specific digital service the users of your platform use a lot and bring a lot of values, or is it more a range between different digital services and opportunities? Do you see any trends in your platform?
Thank you, Tesi. Yes, so we see that now there is a strong movement towards live services. So, for example, if before COVID, it wasn't like something that must have. I'm talking about mobile app, for example, and all the services that we have in our hand where we are at the event. Right now, we see that close to 100% of our customers, exhibition organizers, request to have mobile app as another interface of web platform with the same functionality. So this is the trend in terms of functionality. In terms of the KPIs that organizers set, I think that engagement and personalization of services and higher return on investment for exhibitors, this is and different tools to enable this, because technology, as John mentioned before, is an enabler to enhance the communication between buyer and seller, and you can use it in different ways, and the same technology in the hands of different organizers can be used differently. And this graph, just a little comment on that, clearly shows that the focus from what is the type of technology to what is the KPI that we want to achieve is clearly shown here. As organizers want to deliver value, and it's actually at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you use to deliver this value if you have your strong KPIs achieved.
No, thank you very much, Tanya. Any question from the audience? If not, then Jens, over to you again.
Okay, then, yeah, we're coming to the adoption slide. So we ask, how are event participants currently using technology? And in terms of the adoption, gave 5 different, the classic 5-star ranking, with the very low adoption being seen by 8% of respondents, low adoption by 16%. So a total of 20% still that sort of, you know, let's say they're still a little bit struggling. And then the medium adoption already, so with the adoption in principle being there, 52%, high adoption with 20%, and then those who have already cracked the code, and of course we know some of these people as well, like our customer IMEX, you know, with very high adoption that are practically the entire event has really the digital component completely woven into it, and it is absolutely a substantial part of the event now, and that's for 4% of the figures. I always find it very interesting to talk about adoption because, I mean, like Tanya also mentioned just now, I always have this quote by Jeff Bezos in mind where he says there is no such thing as disruption, there is only customer adoption. And I think it's a really, really good and really important quote to keep in mind every time we talk about tech, we talk about innovation. In the end, you know, until someone uses it and until we have the adoption by the customers, be that visitors, be that exhibitors, be that, you know, whoever else is using our solutions, there isn't any value there. But to see here that also here we have really jumped from that very early phase where in these very early groups where we have innovators and we have early adapters to this, you know, early majority that are now already using it. It doesn't mean that we have solved all of the adoption issues that, of course, still some of them remain, but it shows that we have really jumped over the biggest hurdles in the market. And it's very reassuring to see that the respondents also see this.
And from the adoption rate, Jens, maybe you can talk about this only anecdotally, so maybe you don't have the data, but do you see any difference between regions, countries, age groups, that one country or one region has a higher adoption rate than the others, or there is a sweet spot age group area or anything?
Yeah. So I'm actually one of these people who believes that there are differences obviously in adoption, also based on cultures in the regions and so on. But very often I find that the bigger change in the adoption is really always whether you manage to communicate the value for the customer, that they understand why they want to be using this. And this is something you can do everywhere, and this is something you can do in every market, and this is something you can do whether it's an in-person event or a digital event. I remember when I did the COVID check-in and the entire sort of new access control solution for Messe Berlin, and people were all telling me, oh, you know, if you have now an app and you know, if people are more senior, they will not download this, they will not use this, they will not be able to register for the event. And it was simply not true. You know, as long as you made it easy to use, actually some of the most senior users, there was a much higher adoption amongst them compared to some typical 30 to 40-year-old business people who were maybe very rushed and very sort of time conscious, who they were harder to convince to sometimes to use this, at least for those COVID solutions, than other groups are. So I think it's not dependent on those factors. I think it's dependent on really, you know, your overall design of the value, and do you manage to communicate this value to the user? If they see the value, they will use it.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Unless there is no question, then please continue, Jan. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And we ask, what are the key challenges facing event professionals today? And I guess, you know, some of these questions or some of these answers and points have already been made, but let me go through them before you so that you know whether you can see all the numbers here. So by far the biggest and really sort of outstanding is good return on investment for exhibitors, with 76% of respondents giving this as the prime answer. Followed by a seamless experience across platforms with 40%, equally with 40% integration between suppliers. Clearly in our network economy, an ever bigger challenge. Sustainability is of course there. Lack of skilled resource with 32%, clearly a development from the crisis. You know, I don't think that so many people had so many issues finding staff and filling the gaps in their ranks as before. And 32% also for smooth exhibitor onboarding. 28% are finding it challenging to see the audience levels come back to what they have seen before, and budget always there with 24%. When looking at all of these factors, I guess that the good in return on investment for exhibitors, the audience levels, and the budget, they all in a way are a follow-on from the crisis, because they're all sort of budget related. You know, clearly the exhibitors are under ever stronger control by their controlling departments to bring a value home and show what value they got from exhibiting. And that, of course, reflects in this ever increased pressure on us to deliver that high value. And similarly, the budgets for traveling and for visiting are not back for all of the audience levels. And the budget is similarly not within the organizers necessarily there in all cases yet to answer to all of this, to all of these challenges. So I guess a quite clear connection to the crisis here still, even though it's rippling out, but it's still there.
And I think if I remember it, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the point good ROI for exhibitors, that was the highest answer last year as well in your report. Do I remember that correctly?
That's a very good question. I would
Tanya
imagine
was nodding.
Yeah.
Tanya,
yeah. It always was, and I think it partially related to post-COVID trends, where during COVID, exhibitors and visitors, buyers and sellers, they had to switch to remote interactions. And when you interact remotely, you start to apply marketing metrics that we apply to traditional marketing or digital marketing. You start to apply to your business interactions. And when you come back to exhibitions, you logically continue to have the same anticipation, or you want to have you have higher expectations on number of leads, and you measure everything with number of leads. And coming back to your previous question about what is the highest demand in technology, maybe a part of the mobile app that I mentioned, the main one is lead intelligence, where we have to show the exhibitor how many leads they generated online and on site, but all together in this omni-channel way. So return on investment for exhibitors will always be one of the highest maybe challenges, because this is the paying party at exhibitions, and with higher expectations, exhibition industry has to deliver even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also where digital really can serve that mission very well. We have 13 minutes left, Jens, and I would like to leave some minutes to the Q&A round at least. How many more slides do you have?
Precisely one. So
precisely one. John, can we park your question to after the next slide? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
no problem.
Maybe just to finish this up with this very small comment, but you see here that 55% it was in January 2023 for return on investment, then 64 in July and 76. So still, even though it is always clearly the forefront runner, it's still extremely high, So anyway, good. And here, yes, the seventh and last slide, what are the key event tech features that you are now expecting to see? And the event mobile app was mentioned before, and it is a classic by now with 60%, and AI matchmaking with 52%, lead retrieval just mentioned as well with 48%, the floor plan, interactive floor plan with 48%, registration similarly, exactly. And then the community with 40%, hosted via meetings, 36%. That's certainly here an international survey, which has there, from my sort of German region, that's probably a little bit lower figure. And then on-demand content with 16, and location-based services with 16%. So I guess here, just looking across that, I find it interesting to see that, yes, okay, event app, that's clear, that's something, but also what is being expected, it is no longer a single feature or a single functionality again, but there is actually now a number of digital services and a number of digital value points that are being expected and that can be delivered, and that also are finding adoption. And I guess that's on a pretty high level here with 50% as well. So
I think this is underlining very well what Tanya said. It's lead generation, return of investment. Absolutely. John.
Exactly. Yeah.
You had a question.
Yeah, it was about the prior slide. I think, like Tanya mentioned, the exhibitor is mainly paying always for the event, so that's where a lot of the focus is. Was there also a question about whether there's a good ROI for the visitors? Because there's a question about audience levels, but I do see a couple of organizers that have now far more focus on also the ROI for visitors, but not too many. So I'm just wondering whether there was a question and whether there's been feedback on that point from organizers.
Yeah, we had more questions. We have more questions in the survey than we presented here, but I'm not sure that we had ROI for visitors, but you are completely right that many organizers, what we see now, hosted buyer program, where it's self-explanatory, where buyers are hosted and they get relevant meetings during the event, and they achieve in this way one of the goals why they visit the event, because every like meaningful content program and good business opportunities, this is what visitors are looking for. And we see how organizers started to use more and more hosted buyer programs. So maybe this is an answer to the question of how to increase ROI for visitors. But I'm not sure that we have statistics to support this.
Okay, well, maybe next round. Next
year. Exactly.
Maybe
I was just wanting to say that could be a good question for next year's event. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Jens, do you want to finish your slide before we go to the question and answer round?
This was the last slide, so I'm quite happy to finish at this moment in time and answer any questions that there are.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Maybe stop sharing so that we see all the faces. Thank you very much. We had actually one question. Yeah, Jens, sorry, you want to say?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to quickly say that this was 7 or so slides. The whole survey has, I think, over 30 pages, and there is more to come. So this will be available to you, so you can all dig into more detail later.
And there was one question at the beginning, in the chat, if the slides will be shared. And Sandrine answered the question, yes, they will be shared. And I think everybody who wants to have the full report, please approach Jens or Tanya or Maria. And I'm sure Expo Platform is also more than happy to send the full report to the audience. Do we have any question from
Yes.
the audience? Yeah, please, Juan.
What's the main gap for the future that we are going to cover with the exhibition industry?
What is the main gap for the future?
Yeah, in the event tech.
What is the main development we need to, or what is the thing we need to develop? Is that the question?
What's the main gap that we need to close?
Okay.
Because the event exhibition industry is moving very faster to fulfill the experience now again in a presential way, but we are always trying to discard all these new technologies because we think that they are worthless when people are together.
I see. So the question is, what is the main problem we can solve through digital? What is the main gap for exhibitors and visitors, and to rephrase it, how can we help them in the best way, maybe in the future? Tanya, I see you smiling already. If you, for 1 second, I think the main thing is what Jens presented at the beginning, the personalization experience, the seamlessness. It's both are in the Expo Platform report. I think we are at the beginning of that journey. I think we have a long way to go. I always wait for the day where I switch on my computer and my, whatever it is, Outlook, Expo Platform says, hey, Tesi, you are at IMAX. By the way, John is at IMAX as well. Should I block a meeting for both of you? And John and we can just, I swipe to the left to meet John. John swipes to the right because he doesn't want to meet me. And then it's done. So the answer is a seamless, personalized experience, I think, is a gap. Tanya, I'm not sure. Maybe you say something totally different.
Yeah. I am between two answers here, or maybe I will provide quickly two. So I think that I'm completely with you, Tesi, that we are chasing other industries to provide the same level of customization that they have. So, for example, if you open anything like Spotify, Amazon, etc., you have in a very maybe conversational way that we don't have in our industry, greeting and sharing your interests and trends and inviting you to engage with people that might be of your interest. I think that we already established quite good presence in terms of recommendations of the content of people, but doing it in a more seamless and natural way as we see being used in all these apps that we are using on daily basis. We are not yet there. So filling this gap, being on the same level of our of the expectations of the young or even average age people who are visiting our shows. Another one that I wanted to say that I think that we still have a big gap in how we analyze the data. So instead of maybe chasing for trendy and fancy AI technologies, etc., we better get better insights about how the functionality that we are using is being used and what behavioral analysis we can use and how we can use this data to better achieve conversion rates, engagement, satisfaction, etc. So I think these two, I'm with you on level of personalization, seamlessness, but also how we analyze the data. It's still not.
I totally agree. On the data, I think on how to store data, analyze data, segment data, make sense out of the data. I think we just came out of Stone Age. And we are very close of inventing the wheel, maybe, but we are not very far. I really can tell from my own experience that this is something we need to become better. The session is almost coming to an end. Juan, please.
My last testimony will be IMEX. When you're in IMEX and you receive all those amount of tools to engage people, my main concern is that they try to maintain you. We need to be focused on the trade show. We need to be focused on the trade fair. We need to be focused on the timing to meet people. But with all these technology tools, we are always trying to be unfocused because we try to be connected with our office, with our company, with our projects, and we are losing the opportunity to maintain people focused. That's the main issue for me in nowadays, because we are also immersed in technology and to maintain connected, that we are not using our time to focus on seeing people to the eyes.
Is this not exactly personalization, Juan? Is it not exactly what personalization is about? Why should we as an organizer say the visitor at a trade show, he needs to focus on the trade show? I already made him a number and not a person. The visitors at the trade show, in 80% of his time, he might focus on the trade show. In 20% of his time, he might get an email he needs to answer immediately. He might get a WhatsApp message. He might want to upload a video from the trade show. So there might be really good reasons where this person doesn't want to focus on the trade show. And we need to give him the liberty to do what is most important for him. And I think this is exactly what I mean with personalization. So I would almost challenge this point.
Yeah, I feel a little bit that this was a stone to our garden, as we are providers of technology for IMEX, and IMEX organizers, they really try to provide different ways of how to engage people with very rich content and very rich buyer program. And what we're adding this year, by the way, for IMEX Frankfurt and Las Vegas, is that we will provide better visibility on your content schedule or your session schedule when you schedule your meetings, even if they don't block your time. Yeah, I don't know if it's something that will be helpful, but we know this frustration of visitors when they visit very rich content and business program events. And this is one of the priorities for us, how to make life of every buyer and seller easier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much. Also, the people start dropping out because the session came to an end. I just want to very, very quickly, before we end the session, thanks to Expo Platform for supporting the exhibition think tank in the last 4 years. Expo Platform then not only have a great platform, they also create great content, of which we have seen a little bit in the last hour. So please go to the Expo Platform website and look what they're doing. They're doing LinkedIn talks and they're releasing white papers, and it's really worth following them. Then last thing I say, good news. If your life achievement was to attend the second last ETT session, you have achieved your life achievement. So you can retire now because you couldn't do any more. However, if your life achievement is to attend the last ETT session, then you need to come back on the 31st, where we come together to reflect on the last 4 years and what have we achieved, what worked, what didn't work, and so on. So I'm really hoping to see you on the 31st. And thanks, Tanya, thanks, Maria, thanks, Jens, and thanks, Anna, for your loyal support over the last 4 years. It was amazing. Thank you very much.
Well,
thank you very much, Tesi.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And Tesi, if I get your meeting request, I'll swipe right.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Great. Thanks so much.
Everyone.
Thank you, everybody.